Hi guys, Paul here from Meldrum Performance Coaching again, and today I'm going to be talking about a quote. And it sounds really odd to be talking about a quote in the podcast, but I promise you it does have a lot of relevance to becoming an excellent coach. And I heard this coaching the first time from the muscle doc, Jordan Shallow, in a Prescript Level 1 course, which I'm currently doing with him at the moment, which is a really good course if you're looking to continue your personal trainer education. I highly recommend it, and Jordan's an awesome dude. So the quote was, and he did misappropriate a little bit in the lecture, but we can get away with that, is tyranny is deliberate removal of nuance by Albert Maysles. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his surname. But the reason why this quote resonates with me so strongly is the fitness industry we know it goes in waves, it goes up and down, etc., etc. Like with cardio, with kettlebells, with strength training, powerlifting, etc., whatever it is. What has happened recently is there seems to be a real drive towards getting the basics right. Whereas a number of years ago, it was really like getting into nitty-gritty details that were beyond the scope of practice of most personal trainers, like looking at hormonal manipulation and stuff like that. But what's happening now is in diet wise, we're just looking, people will just say calorie deficit. That's it. The only way to lose fat, calorie deficit, gain muscle, calorie surplus, which in essence is true, but it's really not that useful because what's the nuance in that? Like calorie deficit for what person at what time? What type of calorie deficit fits into their life? Like what size of the calorie deficit? What lifestyle factors do they need to adjust to get there? How do things like sleep affect this calorie deficit or the amount of fat we burn at rest, which is significantly different? How does a client's stress levels play into it? What kind of solutions do we give? Is the calorie deficit the right approach now for a client who's looking to lose weight, who's been in a relative energy deficiency syndrome for a long time? Like there's so many things that we can go into, including the foods that we can choose to get there and the different impact that micronutrients and digestion have on not just our body composition, but our overall health and feelings of well-being. It's really, really important. Training wise, there's been, particularly with pain movement, there's been a real movement away from looking at what's optimal form and what's looking at, like how injuries occurring. And it seems to be now everyone just goes, oh, just poor load management. Well, that's really missing a ton of nuance in so many different ways that we'll get into. And it's like, well, back pain, it's just all non-specific low back pain. That's all everyone can do because people don't have the skills to mechanically diagnose what's going on with someone's low back. It's just like, oh, it'll get better in 6 months anyway. Well, just train around it, keep doing, and let's keep you empowered and positive. And I'm all for the keeping people empowered, keeping people positive about their training. But we'll stick to training for this discussion rather than nutrition because that's a whole other ballpark. But when we're looking at I've had coaches and exercise physiologists literally tell me that form doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if someone's getting the most out of the exercise while they're doing it. Well, why the hell are they coming to us at all? Is your whole job really just load management? Because if it's the case, it is just to do load management, you may as well just do that online retroactively by watching what they've done and going, all right, cool, do a little more, do a little less. It's really just leaving things up to chance at that point, and it's lazy coaching. If a client comes to you and they only get to the gym 2 times a week, it's our duty to make sure that they get the absolute most out of those 2 hours. And it really doesn't take that much more effort to do a dumbbell row with, say, 15 kilos poorly or a dumbbell row with 15 kilos really effectively, tweaked for that person's individual biomechanics, tweaked for their movement performance, and tweaked for their goal. Of course, all exercises can be executed differently based on the goal. So the other thing is, with that, it kind of really misses out on some of the keys of human motivation. So if these people claim that just going to the gym is enough for them to do stuff, what we need to do is really think of, all right, cool. So they're not actually learning anything, they're just getting there. They're not really getting involved in the process. It's always been said that the people who get most involved in the process are the ones that are going to get the best types of outcomes. So why aren't we deliberately trying to practice what we do in a way that's going to give people that type of ability and give them the opportunity to become involved in the process? People generally do enjoy learning. So what we need to do is really apply our coaching to show people the right way to do it, to show them nuances, to show them how much they can actually get out of this when they do it properly. And then that can often lead to people really enjoying the process a lot more. When this comes to pain and this removal of nuance, I think it's getting onto the point where it's bordering on irresponsible. And I do get where it's coming from. It's a kick and a push against the overly biomechanical model that some people are pushing. So like if you don't stand up perfectly all the time, you're going to have pain. If you don't sit perfectly still, you're going to have pain. Like your knees always have to be straight ahead when you do a squat type thing. And that's when the biomechanical perspective went too far the other end. The biopsychosocial perspective has bio in it, so it should have biomechanics, but that acknowledges that the human body is quite resilient. And yes, it is quite resilient until it's not. So a lot of the time, these biomechanical factors do have a play, because if we're going to say pain is caused in the gym entirely by load capacity being exceeded, we need to look at why the hell is the load capacity being exceeded. It's not as simple and reductionistic as just too much weight in the bar, too many reps, and too many sets. Because if that was the case, every single pump person would have horrible injuries all the time. So we need to look at things at a much more nuanced, a lot more detailed way. So if you do have a client who's having pain in their knees from squatting, maybe it's not because they've just done squats for a long time and they're doing a lot of volume. You can pretty objectively determine if someone is doing a lot of volume. If someone's doing 3 sets of 8 squats per week and they're not getting any outcomes, they're getting pain, sorry, not getting outcomes. If they're getting pain of 3 sets of 8 squats a week, it's probably not exceeding load tolerance. It's highly unlikely that that's the case. It's probably that the load tolerance has been exceeded in a certain part of the body due to other parts of the body not picking up the slack in that load tolerance. So that's something to really, really think about when we're actually coaching people. And when dealing with people in pain, we can't really afford to be lazy. What we need to do is actually take into account the nuances of pain. So it's a very individualized thing. People's experiences, background, sociology, social influences, etc. will influence their experience of pain. But we also need to look at, okay, how is the load being managed? Where is the load being managed? Where is the load being shifted to? And deal with that. From an exercise execution point of view, we need to nuance our approach add nuance to our approach to help people get the most out of the exercise, to help make sure we shift the load onto the tissues that we're actively trying to target to help people get better outcomes. So guys, hopefully this has been more thought-provoking than anything else. It's that what we should be striving for is, yes, we should have the big rocks. We should totally go for the basics. We shouldn't be worrying about the nuances of supplementation for someone who never has a vegetable. We should be worried about getting them in veggies first. But as we develop as coaches, as our clients develop with us, we need to be aware of the nuances, and we need to be better at picking them up, educating our clients on them, and utilizing them in our practice to get the best outcomes for our clients. Thanks heaps for listening, guys. See you soon.